Welcome to our panel discussion here today at the SMT Hybrid Packaging exhibition in Nuremberg, Germany. We're here to talk about what will be the new standard for machine-to-machine communication. And I'm joined by a very distinguished panel of people from various companies representing this technology. From my extreme right is Thomas Bliem from ASM Assembly Technologies.
Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you. To his left we have Florian Ritter from ASYS. And to my immediate left, of course, we have Jason Spera from Aegis Corporation, representing a co-chairman of the IPC committee for CFX. And at the end we have Oren Manner from Mentor Siemens. Okay. So welcome, gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us. Of course, the machine-to-machine communication is at the center of the smart factory, and we're here to discuss that here today. So maybe I can turn first of all with my first question to Thomas. There are a variety of competing software systems for line optimization. I just went through them. Of course, there's the IPC CFX, Mentor OML, and of course Hermes. What are the merits? I mean, what are the merits of starting off with this new Hermes system? Can you describe it to us and how it operates?
It's a good question. Basically, there are many different approaches right now, and it must sound a bit strange why I hear 4 different parties to discuss with you, but we have to distinguish. Hermes itself is taking care of the horizontal line integration. This means machine to machine is whispering basic information for optimizing the board flow. The board itself gets a digital twin. This digital twin gets enriched over the line with all the necessary data and can synchronize what you do along the line.
Okay.
And this is the benefit of Hermes. It's basically a high-end upgrade of the classical SMT, which is extensible over in the future because of its XML structures.
Right. Okay. So Florian, does instructions for going from the SBI to this type of thing, does that sit above the Hermes standard?
It's possible to integrate this into the Hermes standard, but it's not part of the version we discussed in our meeting in March.
You're doing a lower level of
yes, it's just low-level board handling at the moment with enrichment of some board ID or the width of the PCB, some basic information.
Okay, that's interesting. So let me turn to you, Jason. I mean, you're obviously been involved in CFX now for over a year. There's been a number of changes going on there. Can you give us an update as to where we stand on it just now?
Sure. Well, the CFX standard is comprised basically of 2 major areas. There's how the data will be transported and then the data content itself. And we broke into 2 task groups to address both issues. And I'm pleased to say that actually the vote on the transport protocol, actually which all the folks here have contributed to some degree on that, is actually up on for vote right now digitally in the committee. So hopefully within days or weeks we will actually have what transport methodology will be used for the standard. So that's quite a step forward.
So your system, is it based on the Flex systems model? Are they contributing to this? Is that correct?
Well, Flextronics Flex is on the committee, and their experience with their machine vendor ecosystem did inform the direction we're going, but actually because consensus and collaboration and well, mainly the consensus is so important to the standard that certain machine vendors, certain other tier 1 suppliers had different opinions, so that is why we are going to a vote on the final standard. So yes, it informed the options that were put forth, but the decision will go to the wider committee.
Right, okay. Because last week, of course, Flex had their investor meeting in California. They did a presentation on their system, which, quite frankly, was very elaborate.
Yes, it is.
So that's interesting. Oren, what's the current status on OML? I mean, now you've been acquired recently by Siemens. What are they bringing to the party, and how is OML doing?
Okay, yeah. So we are a Siemens business now. This is the new formal Mentor Siemens business.
Yeah.
I imagine that we will remain a Siemens business for at least 24 months before maybe some additional consolidation will happen. We are pushing OML strongly now together with Siemens and some of our counterparts at Siemens from the MON division. So the different MES
portfolio and pretty extensive portfolio that they have there, based on Camstar, based on Semantic IT. So there is a push now to kind of work together to try to push this OML standard. We are going to be releasing in the next couple of weeks an SDK. So tapping to what Jason said here, OML is really just a language which is a set of events which describes how the machines should communicate that. It doesn't really specify exactly what the protocol should be, but we are going to be releasing a free SDK which will allow customers to basically have an implementation of the OML standard and allow them to use either C# or Java in order to really develop an OML interface. So this
is that something similar to what they're doing here at Hermes? With that?
No, I don't think it's something to do, because again, the mentor approach has been to do something a little bit more extensive, and to think not only between the machine-to-machine communication, which is one application, but also the machine-to-MES and how to get the data up into the different applications, whether they're supply chain management applications, ERP applications, IT applications, and so on. Now, if you do go to the Fraunhofer line here at the show, you can see an implementation that we did, which we're actually calling the digital thread, which is something that Siemens has been using quite, aggressively for the last couple of years with this whole digital twin, digital thread. So we show an implementation of how we're using OML to collect data from the machines and try to streamline it between the machines. But really, our additional value is that we do allow higher level systems to go and get that data. And the question I would ask is just machine-to-machine enough, or would most tier 1 manufacturers want a solution which allows them to do machine-to-machine connectivity, but also machine-to-MES and machine-to-ERP? So that's the question.
Well, it is an interesting question. One I'll bring back to you, Thomas. I mean, the Hermes version of having a basic transport system and transferring the information. With your own company, ASM Assembly Systems, you have a process expert system that sits at the top to exchange information between SPI, printer, AOI, and of course picking place. So is that going to sit at a higher level? Is that going to be a different? Is that going to be your own? You're going to keep that as your own product, and that sits on top of Hermes. Is that how it would work?
Basically, Hermes is a baseline for some such products. Such products always require today a barcode reader in front of every station, because you have to assure that the board flow it's homogeneous. You do not mix up boards, and therefore barcode is preconditioned. It's quite costly. You measure multiple times, you invest multiple times, and this is the problem. If you have Hermes, you do not need a barcode at all for such an implementation. You just create a global unique ID, which is a random pattern. You transfer this pattern together with the board, and based on this random pattern you follow the board, and you can close the loop in Process Expert, for instance. So this simplifies a lot. It's the cheapest implementation you can have. But it's a different topic. Hermes is a baseline, everything else is on top. Also what you said just about OML, there's not black and white. There will be simple factories where you need only Hermes. There will be a more complex factory where you need Hermes plus something in addition to manage your factory level.
Okay. So that's a good point. Florian, if I can ask you, one of the issues here with all of this machine-to-machine communication software is speed or time to market. I mean, because everybody's looking for a solution now. So is this going to be a race to who's going to be first to bring something to the market? Because really people are looking for solutions now. What is your opinion?
That was the reason why we discussed some really low-level protocol to implement it in a fast way and in an easy way. So the plan is to have a big event on the Productronica show this year with the first machines equipped with Hermes.
Okay. So you're going to have something out by Productronica?
Yep.
Do you think you'll have something basic out by Productronica?
There will be portions of it out, but not a complete system. And it is a good point. The time to market is critical. And a singular party developing something can always move a lot faster. But there are the benefits to the consensus. Like, in fact, myself personally, I was amazed at the variety of opinion on just the transport issue. One wouldn't think that there would be so much argument about that subject, but there was, and it was actually quite valid. If you looked at what the tier 1 suppliers were interested in versus the machine vendor concerns, it was actually really rather amazing. But I think that my personal opinion is that the consensus open-based approach to it, while maybe taking longer, ultimately is better because it has the benefit of all those different requirements that are ultimately in the final standard.
Right, okay. Do you think that for example, that the CFX could sit on top of the basic Hermes system?
Oh, most definitely, because to extend the analogy is right now, systems like ours and Mentors sit on top of SMT.
Right.
They rely upon SMT. We have devices that integrate with SMT. So this is just taking SMT and the concept to a digital, more modern level. So of course it would become a sub, I don't want to use it in a demeaning manner, but it would be a subsystem of a larger data traffic system in the factory.
Right.
So I don't see
about a two-tier system anyway. When you're talking about a basic level and then a more sophisticated level above it.
It's not so much sophistication, but it are the tiers from the automation layer up into, say, the MES, and then all the way up into the supply chain systems and ERP. There are layers to the IT stack in an enterprise, and I just think that's one of them.
Okay. Or do you think, would you agree that you could, your OML could sit above a basic Hermes platform if that was the case?
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely we can support that and communicate with that and benefit from the fact that all of the machines are communicating in the same basic language. So we need to understand where the PCB is. When we go into installations, or people go into installations, they have to put a lot of these barcode readers. This is complicated, expensive, and that's many times the main fault break in the system is that the barcodes kind of moved a little bit, or your sticker has moved a couple of inches and you lose data. So definitely having a more sophisticated system to get data is an advantage. I'm not sure how much all of this machine-to-machine communication without software applications is going to really hold true in the industry, because are we really going to let the machines, auto-calibrate themselves and manage the process, or is somebody at the end going to want to have some logic in an MES type application, where at the end of the day the process engineer gets notified of the issues and makes a decision? So this is the question: is can we really let the data that's flowing between these machines auto-manage itself and make decisions, or is this good for control, but once you want to make some kind of decision, this will go into an MES type application where somebody will see this and make the final decision. So this is something that I
You're talking about whether we go to true artificial intelligence
exactly. Do you want this auto, or at the end of the day somebody's going to get some kind of text message and he's going to understand that there is a calibration issue and that the SPI has detected some movement, and now we have to go and understand why this is happening. The machines might be able to give him some suggestions. Yes. But at the end of the day, I question whether some of these manufacturers are really going to let the machines auto calibrate themselves and do everything without somebody actually making the assertion. So I think the data will have to flow to higher level systems at the end of the day to make decisions.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
But in the end, what you're asking, if you look back 20 years ago, everything you said you would have said about autonomous vehicles. Do you really trust in this? 20 years ago, are you stupid? So slow, calculation performance, how can you upload, download data? Nobody would have done this. Now, in 20 years you would say, yes, we will have one. And therefore I think everything is valid. There will be customers which want to do their decisions, but when the system offers you 100 times the right answer, and you just say yes, 101 times, you will not do. Then you will say, it's okay, I trust. And I think this is something we have to gain. If you do automatic risk adjustment, program download, something like this, at the beginning you want to accept this, but after some point you will just say, I trust. And this is, I think it's the next level we want to achieve now. It's nothing which can be done in 1 year. It's a transformation which happens now. But we have to start this transformation. We cannot rely on SMT, which is 40 years old. It will never transform like this.
It's an interesting point. I mean, somebody was on a panel yesterday, and they were talking that once this full factory automation was implemented, that the machinery would change. In other words, you wouldn't need to have covers on machines and things like that, because they're only there to protect the humans. It's a kind of an interesting concept. So what are your views on the artificial intelligence, Florian?
Artificial intelligence. It's going to be a point for the future, of course, but this has nothing to do with the Hermes protocol itself. Hermes is just putting some information from A to B. Yeah, but of course there will be systems on top of it, on top of this transport protocol, who make decisions. And this should be a big software system and not this basic transporting level.
Right.
But there's a lot of self-healing already implemented now in our machines, but it's always rule-based. It's not that you could call it artificial intelligence. It's always the same rule which we apply. And this will also stay there for a long time now, but we'll come to this level, what you just say, in let's say 10, 15 years maybe.
Okay.
We need more calculation power for this.
So I won't be around to see it then.
We hope so.
Okay. Jason, one of the things that I heard from independent people was when they were talking about the potential of maybe working with a system that might have an input from a contract manufacturer, was that they were concerned about that. They prefer that the push was coming through from the supplier side of the industry, so that they got ahead of it. They got under control basically, rather than, because otherwise they'd be going into every factory, and every factory they're going, no, you have to configure to our system, or you have to configure to our system. Do you think that's a valid criticism?
Are you speaking to the standardization of the data exchange with supply chain and so forth?
Right.
Well, that's one of the things that we want to do with CFX, and that it isn't, because some approaches look at the line or maybe SMT as the data exchange challenge, and then there's others that, well, for example, CFX is looking out into the discrete manufacturing, post-processing areas, and all the way up into the IT stack with ERP. And yes, but there are actually, if you're talking about outside the WAN, there are actually a lot of EDI standards that exist already for exchanging that data over the web.
Right. Okay. Lauren, obviously with any type of software interface there are security situations. What is Mentor doing to address security concerns with using OML?
Yes, I think actually that's a good point. I think cybersecurity is going to become a big issue. Autonomous vehicles are for sure, going to see that, but also we see that, going into manufacturing now. So one thing that we're going to be doing is we're working with the Siemens cloud solution, which is called MindSphere, in order to adopt some of their technology and try to take some of their security protocols that they've implemented, which are all completely open, as a way to tunnel data and secure the data between the boxes and the applications. Now, if everything is running on premise, I don't think it's such a big consideration, because if you're collecting the data but you're keeping it all locally in the same network and you're just sending it to some servers which are hosted locally, then I don't think the security issue is such a big deal. But once you do start going externally and you do want to host some of it on a cloud, and you have some kind of multi-site environment where you're consolidating data from different manufacturing sites, then that definitely becomes an issue. And we will try to bring in some Siemens technology and try to deploy it. We're also looking and maybe tapping into the standardization here. At the moment, OML is a Mentor copyright. We do give a complete free and open license, but it is a license. There are no limitations on the license, and there's no money involved, but we do own the copyright. And we will try to change that in the future and try to see how we work with Siemens to find some kind of more open body in order to provide the copyright to that. We don't want to own the copyright. We understand it. We do want to control the speed of the development. So what we've learned in the past is these standards take a very long time to get going. And as Jason was saying, there's just so many conflicts of interest between the different machine suppliers. So we think that maybe together with Siemens we can push it faster and then say, guys, here it is. It's open. We don't own the copyright anymore, and give it to the market.
Okay. Same question to you, Jason. I mean, security. I mean, would you be using? Would people connect through? Well, actually, before I go on to that, on your cloud system, would you be using maybe a VPN to connect to that, so that it would be, that it wouldn't be obviously broadcast wirelessly?
So there would be all the data would be consolidated into a single box which acts as the gateway, and then this box is the one that actually goes external. It's the one that encodes the data and then sends it completely encrypted over to the application. So it doesn't matter if you have a VPN connection or you're using something else, the data is encrypted as part of the protocol, and then is once it gets into the cloud application, the data is decrypted and then used in the application. So this is the mechanism, and then we don't rely on the different VPN technology or whatever they have done, firewall stuff in order to do that. So,
okay, good. Jason, it's maybe a bit early for you to talk about this because you're still at such an early stage of development, but I mean, do you have a view on how you envisage handling the security issues?
Actually, it is timely because, as I mentioned, we have the vote going on the transport, and security is solely a transport issue. So once the transport is decided, the security issue is in there. And in fact, that was a big concern in the collaboration with it, because we are talking about 87 participants of the committee, of which 58 are corporations. So there's 58 discrete corporations involved. And security came up. And one of the two protocols that are free, and very light actually, one of them is the #1 basically transmission of data packets used by banks. And obviously it's extremely high security, but it's fundamentally security. As sort of what Arne was talking about not relying on secondary systems, it can encrypt the packet that's going out. So you don't require a channel that's encrypted, it just is fundamentally secure. So one of the two options would actually be fundamentally secure over the wire.
Right, okay. That's interesting. Gentlemen, I'm sure you've been asked the same question about security within your systems. Is that an issue?
I think the arguments have already been there before. You already answered it for me. Basically, what we are doing is you call it low level, and it's between the lines. It's very locally. We have a point-to-point connection, and this is not hard to keep this secure because it's not that a lot of guys can attack you from there.
Right.
And the data we are transmitting is not that you are transmitting intellectual property or something like this. You transfer just, it's a board, this is the size, this is the thickness, this is the speed, this is the barcode. What can you lose if somebody has this data?
Right.
So in the end,
what you can do to damage the machine or whatever.
right. And also the minefield topic, basically what you just said, this protection already starts after the line. So also you start protecting it after the line, going outside to of the factory. At this point we do not have.
Of course.
And many customers may not need. If they need it, they have to buy from one of you guys. No, I'm joking, because we are also actively supporting the CFX standard, and we believe it has to be open. What you also said, a license owned by one company, this is nothing we would like to support for the moment. We believe this needs to be open, free, developed by many companies or as an association, and therefore we are contributing today in the CFX standard today.
Okay.
Secure one.
There we go. That makes a lot of sense. So there is actually a lot of collaboration going on here, even though you're all working on different potential machine software systems. Well, gentlemen, we're running out of time, so I want to thank you very much for joining us today in a really stimulating debate. And we'll see by Productronica who's up and running and ready to go. We look forward to the first version of CFX. Certainly look forward to the Hermes launch, and well, you're already up, aren't you, with the OML? We'll see how it's developed. Thank you once again, Orrin Manner from Mentor Siemens, Jason Spera from Aegis IPC, and Thomas Bliem from ASM Assembly Systems, and Florian Ritter from ASYS. And thank you for joining us today.